Hey everybody, it's Vallen from Mischief of Mice, here with another Bit by Bit on Witchery. Today we're covering part 2 of the Cauldron, Brews. Hopefully you've watched part 1 and you have your Witch's Brews book, which I will say is actually going to be fairly mandatory unless you have a really good memory. Myself, I will be using this quite frequently to refer to, and this is the recipe for it just in case you forget. But essentially what we're going to be going over with the Cauldron on Brews today, yes, that's right, Timmy, is the brews and how to make your own. And I don't just mean the vanilla style. I'm talking you can actually create some pretty creative stuff here. Witchery has a whole lot of brews and their effects that you can actually end up messing around with, and that's what we're going to be getting into today. It's a little bit confusing at first if you are to read the book on how to do brewing. It is very concise though, so it's a very short description, and if you read it and understand it clearly enough, you should be good. But I'm going to try and go over this so that you can best understand what it is you're doing with a bit of a visual aid. So, to start with, open up your Witch's Brews book, and you can go to either Introduction and choose Brewing, or you can just choose Brewing straight off the top. So with this, it does mention that the more you bottle, the more your expertise grows, and it's highly recommended that you have your witch's hat and robes on, as well as your toad familiar. Hi there, Ward. And this will get better as you go, and therefore allow you to get more brew possibilities from your cauldron. Now that is very true, and I do recommend it, so that you can not have to waste as many ingredients over here, and might end up getting some extra brews in the process. So there are effects, dispersal methods, and so on. They're talking about all the different ingredients that you've got. You'll need a certain amount of space. It gets a bit confusing when you get to this page and you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck? I got to do all this stuff? Well, not really. This is just all the options that you have depending upon the type of brew you're going for. Now, in this case, this page here is going to be the go-to page. The page afterwards is an example brew, which is what we're going to start with, just to give an idea of what it is we're talking about. So to start with, brews step by step. You're going to want to increase the capacity. Now, the capacity of your brew, that means the amount of effects, which is step 5 here, you can have in your brew. So you don't need to worry about increasing the capacity of it if you're adding modifiers, increasing the power, duration, extent, lingering, dispersal. None of that stuff. The only thing capacity affects is effects. There's something there to try and help you remember. Now, I will get into effects, but first you should know that here is a quick and dirty description. Now, if you click on capacity, it will actually tell you, and this is a good referral page. It's got a visual aid, tells you the increase in the altar power cost and so on. But essentially, you'll have to put them in order depending upon the effect. Now, in this case, we're going to be going with the splash brew of extinguishing fires, which only has one effect, because if I choose the effect first, which I know is a level 1, and I know it's on page 2, we will go over this, don't worry, is extinguish fires. A piece of coal. So that's a level 1 effect. That's all it needs is 1 capacity. Therefore, a mandrake root is required, which gives you 1 capacity. If you were to add in mandrake root, then netherwort, you would end up with a total of 3 capacity. If you added mandrake, netherwort, tear of the goddess, you would end up with a total of 5 capacity, and so on, until you can end up getting quite a bit of capacity in your cauldron, depending upon the ingredients you put in. Now, you can't put them in a different order. It really messes things up. There are some specific brews that may request starting with netherwort instead of mandrake root, but that's not this case. We're talking about brew creation here. So, to go on with that, we're going to grab a piece of mandrake root, and let's see, I don't actually have coal on the list, so let me bring some up here. And I'll grab a piece of coal. Alright, and of course gunpowder, which, funny enough, I don't think I have that either. There we go. So, with this, now I already know the recipe. If anything, you can cheat by just going to the next page. But if you were to have hand-created this, you could choose your capacity to start with. And you see, alright, well, we know our capacity depends on the effects. Well, let's find out what effect we want. And in this case, we want to extinguish fires, which it says extinguishes fires on blocks and creatures in an area, and it harms blazes. So, by going back, you can actually see it's a level 1. Whoops, let me go forward there. So I only need one effect. Therefore, the capacity is going to be a mandrake root. The effect, which I just showed you, is going to be a piece of coal. And then, as it says in the beginning here, you actually need to have a dispersal method. Otherwise, it will end up being a drinkable potion, which in this case you don't want to drink it to extinguish fires around you. So your dispersal is going to be gunpowder. Now when it says instant, that means it's going to essentially be a splash potion. Gas is going to be a splash potion that hits the ground and creates a gas cloud around you that lasts a bit longer. And actually, it may or may not last longer. It will take up an area above the ground, not just where it splashes on the ground. And then, of course, liquid is just like a water. Trigger works on like buttons and doors, pressure plates, and so on. So, but it is very fickle, so you're going to want to be prepared if you decide to do a trigger, which is more for like creating traps or something. So in this case, gunpowder, because we want an instant splash potion. So, therefore, we get our mandrake root, coal, and gunpowder. And now that I've changed the weather to clear, we take our empty bottle, and we've got ourselves a splash potion, or a splash brew of extinguish, which, if you remember any previous episodes, whoops, I just hit Q instead of actually using it. Right click, and it will throw it on the ground and extinguish fire. Like so. Of course, I'm in creative, so I have infinite uses. But it's very simple, very fun. Good to bring a bunch of them with you into the nether if you have a lot of fire going on around you and some of it just got out of control instead of having to just like constantly hit it on the ground. But let's make something a bit more complex and see if we can figure this out. So, whoops. Our home page here, Brews step by step. So let's go over everything a little bit one by one, just so you can understand. Well, first the capacity, I kind of have explained that. That's all dependent upon the effect that you want to have, or effects. Sometimes you can combine them, sometimes you can't. It all depends on the effects that you choose. But there are modifiers, power, duration, extent, lingering, dispersal, ritual. There's all sorts of stuff. So let's check out modifiers. Now this here is very simple. You can actually have it so there are no particle effects. You can invert the next effect. You can skip block effects. You can skip entity effects. It's just a bunch of preferences. You don't have to have any of these. It's set with a default, so you don't have to add in any of these items, but you can if you like and you want these effects on them. Next is going to be the power. Now this adds in order before an effect to increase its power. Of course, you want to do all these in the order that they're listed here. And this is dependent upon the effect as well. So once again, usually choosing the effect and then going back through the list is the best way to go. So this one, glowstone, makes it level 2, blaze rod makes it level 3, a tombstone makes it, a charged tombstone, makes it level 4. So then going on with duration, you can actually add these in order, just like you would for the capacity, in order to lengthen them. So add in order before an effect to increase its duration. A redstone to double it, obsidian to quadruple it, a mindrake bulb to sextuple it. It's essentially, you add them all together and you can make it last a decent amount of time. Moving on, you've got the effects. There are a ton of effects. Each one has multiple pages listed on them. We'll come back to those in a moment. Then you can repeat from step 3 in order to add more power, more duration, more effects, etc. To the brew if you can have it actually working together. There's a lot of experimentation you can do on here to get things to work properly. But otherwise, you can bottle and you get yourself a drinkable potion, or you continue to increase the extent. So the dispersal extent, add in order before the dispersal ingredient to increase its area of effect. So essentially by adding wood ash and then cocoa beans and then wispy cotton, you'd be able to make this a level 4 dispersal extent, which is the area of effect that the dispersal works in. So if I were to toss down that fire extinguishing potion with a level 4, instead of just doing a small splash area, it would do a really big one. So that's what that is referring to. Now, going with the lingering, that depends on determines how long it stays in effect. So now that's kind of like, well, isn't that the same as the duration? Not really. This is more effect of how long it's lasting kind of in an area. For example, it's very difficult to describe when you compare it to duration. But if you have, what's the dispersal, which is the next one. If you have a gas, it actually will stay here for a very short amount of time if you toss it down. If you extend that, it will stay in that clouded area much longer, not just the duration that it will affect you. So keep that in mind, is that the duration is how long it affects you. The lingering is how long it stays affecting the world that you can be affected by it. So continuing on with the lingering, which is what we were talking about 2, 3, and 4, to add in belladonna flower, lapis, and stone, all once again in order to increase those. And then dispersal, which is either gunpowder or water artichoke globes, will give you a splash potion. A wool of bat will make it a gas potion. Wormwood will make it a liquid potion, which will make similar to a water block on the ground. And of course, a zombie head will create some kind of trigger effect, which, to explain this, essentially, what is it? Button, lever, wooden door, pressure plate will apply its effects to the next person who activates the block. And like I said, this is really fickle because you have to hit this potion exactly on the button, lever, wooden door, or pressure plate in order for it to work. So if you miss it, you've ruined the potion. So you're going to want to use the trigger when you're sure of what you're doing, how you can aim it when you throw it, because it's thrown like a splash potion and it can be very fickle. So let's make something a bit more complex. As you saw in part 1, Kashka came after me with, she was much larger than she usually is. And if we go to the effects, if you scroll through these, we've got a lot of different ones. So I'm going to go through these real briefly, and then we will choose that same potion that we used on Kashka. Now, first one, Snowburst and Trail. Essentially, it says in here exactly what it does. Causes a light snow covering to burst over hit blocks. Creatures and players will start to leave snow trails in not too hot biomes, and snowmen may suffer from too much snow. So it essentially will just wherever you walk for a time will create snow. Swim speed, it increases your swim ability, which is pretty cool. Ender inhibition, it prevents Endermen from teleporting. Moonshine, it essentially gives you resistance, but you get hungry and occasionally may get nausea. Part water. Now this one here, at first I thought it was something that I could drink. Temporarily pushes back water, and I could just walk into the water, but instead it's more of a splash potion. So sometimes these effects are dependent upon the method of delivery. So, but you think, all right, well, level 1, that's kind of cool. Well, there's multiple pages, and there's another page, and there's another page. There's so much stuff in here. You can go crazy with this. Extinguish fires, dissipate gas, grow flowers, fertilize, harvest, till land, planting, prune leaves, fell tree, pulverize rock, grow lily, Wolf's Bane, tint skin. You can change your avatar color. I mean, it's crazy, all the different stuff. And this is all just level 1 stuff. As you go up, there's less selection for you, but they become more powerful on how they can affect. Parting lava, repelling attackers, You can get gas immunity, poison, regeneration, another type of poison, fast movement, slow movement, water breathing, resist fire, night vision, being invisible, etc. Now you can also go into some of these you probably notice are similar to your regular vanilla effects. Well, you can also change a lot of different things: flames, fear, blindness, love, paralysis, disease. Brew bottling, which is very important, increases the number of bottles of brew a skilled witch may make. That one is one of your basic ones. If you want to end up making multiple brews of something anytime that you do it instead of just one, this is the way you want to go, is the brew bottling. But there's insanity, sinking, overheating, nightmare, frog's leg, absorption, health boost, etc., etc. I mean, there's just so many. Raise dead, raising the land, so you can actually raise a large chunk of land up into the air. Gru's prey, absorb magic, wither, harm werewolves, weakening werewolves. Continue on level 5. I mean, it's just, it goes on and on. Demon Bane. Level 6. Now this is actually where we're going to end up stopping, because there is so much, as I was showing you, that we can go over just to reproduce every single one of these, but we're not going to. We're just going to give you an example so that you can make these for yourself and experiment. And resizing changes the size of the hit creature. Level 1 is the standard, so that is, it will shrink the character to 1/4 of their normal size. Now, for those that have watched my Departed series, you'll probably end up seeing at some point we have actually created this and used it, but those that just saw episode 1 of the Cauldrons series, we used a level 4 2x size for this effect. So that's what we're going to do, just so that we can have more effects on here and try and mess around with things. So resizing requires an emerald. So keep that in mind, and we will start off with capacity. It's a level 6 spell. So therefore we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means I have extra, but that's okay. Extra isn't going to hurt you in this case. You want to have at least enough to cover it. So we're going to need a mandrake root, nether wart, tear of the goddess, and diamond vapor just to start. Let's grab these off the wall quick. And make sure that our cauldron is set and boiling. You ready for this, Timmy? Alright. Toss that in. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alright, our capacity is created. Now, modifiers. We can actually have no particles, invert the next effect, skip block effects, or skip entity effects. I'm just going to skip the modifiers in general. I really don't care if it doesn't have particles or any of this stuff. Increase power. This is something we're going to want to do in order to make it bigger, so that instead of being level 1, shrinking a character, we want it to be level 4, where it will make them really big. So I'm going to get a charged attuned stone. Don't worry, it always makes that splash noise whenever I get out of my inventory. There we go. Charged attuned stone. Alright, next. Oh, which actually, I just messed that up. Reason being is that I need to put in glowstone dust, then blaze rod, then charged attuned stone. So, what that means is we're going to have to empty that out. Sorry, Timmy. Uh-oh. Looks like we're going to need another Timmy. Alright, now that we have a new Timmy, we can carry on. And we just need to get back to where we were before. We're not doing modifiers, but we are increasing the power. So therefore we're going to need glowstone, blaze rod, and an attuned stone. And once again, to make this so that you can understand what I'm talking about, if I go to the effect, resizing, you can see here we want to make them big, so it needs to be level 4. That is what I'm talking about. So the power, to make it level 4, we need to put glowstone, blaze rod, and a charged attuned stone in next. Alright, now that we've got the power set, we can check the duration. So, as I don't have any Mandrake bulbs, let's just do redstone and obsidian, and we can make it a little bit longer than usual. Alright, here we go. Redstone and obsidian. and that will make it a ×4 effect. So, now that we've got the duration, we add the effect, which is going to be an emerald. Now, feasibly, I could stop right here, and it says I could repeat from 3 to add more power, duration, effects, etc. But otherwise, I could bottle it right now and have a drink potion. But instead, I'm going to continue, just for example's sake, so we can actually make it a little bit different. Let's increase the extent. So, before the dispersal increase its area of effect. So I'm going to grab some wood ash and cocoa beans, and we're going to make it a level 3. Alright, wood ash, cocoa beans. And let's check the lingering. This is how long it stays in the world. So as I'm going to actually turn this into a gas instead of a splash potion, let's make this a level 2 as well, or level 3 as well. Belladonna and lapis. There we go. Alright, so next thing is to set the dispersal, how it delivers into the world. As I want to make it a gas, I'm going to use wool of bat. Here we go. Alright, and that should actually do it. Now we could do a ritual instead, but that's going to be part 3 is rituals. So in the meantime, we're going to just do a dispersal. So, or we just did the dispersal, so we are set, and we can actually bottle this. And we should be good to go. Let me grab this, and the moment of truth. We have ourselves a gas brew of resizing. Now I am in creative, so therefore I actually get infinite uses of this, provided I don't just throw it on the ground. But let me toss it. And you can see there's a gas effect area that it actually goes to. And if I go into it, it actually will affect me. It's affecting me over and over and over again is what's happening. That's why I'm not getting bigger there. But you can see I'm actually getting really, really huge. Oh my gosh. Okay. Alright, and you can see I'm really tall. It's still lingering in the world because it made it linger. And it can just be a lot of fun. Now you can see it's just going to constantly keep trying to make him big, but it's not really going to work that way. So let's have a little fun and toss this over here. Oh, gotta actually hit something with it. There we go. So you can see the fun that you can have with this stuff. I mean, it did take a while for me to make this potion, but you can see now how you can make this for yourself and make things really interesting. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If so, please give a like, share with others, comment, let me know if you did. And until next time, see ya.